Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a moment when the world feels like it's pressing against you, when someone's words or actions challenge your dignity and test your patience. In these moments, it's easy to feel the impulse to react, to defend yourself, or to strike back. But what if I told you that true strength lies not in the loudest response, but in the quietest pause? What if, in the face of disrespect, the most powerful action you can take is to remain still, to rise above the noise and hold firm in your inner peace? Today, I want to share with you a timeless and deeply spiritual truth, that in silence we find our greatest power. It's in choosing to stay quiet, to not be swayed by the words or actions of others, that we unlock a higher form of strength and grace. Stick with me as we explore how mastering this silent strength can transform the way you navigate life's challenges, protect your peace, and stand tall with dignity. This journey is not just about enduring disrespect. It's about transcending it and discovering the quiet power that lies within you. Stay with me till the end, and together we'll uncover how silence can become your most powerful tool. In the midst of life's unpredictable twists, one is bound to encounter moments of disrespect. These moments can shake our inner peace, provoke an emotional response, or even lead us to question our worth. However, there is a profound and underappreciated strength in silence. The ability to stay quiet after being disrespected is not a sign of weakness, but rather a demonstration of profound inner strength. Imagine, if you will, a moment of disrespect, when harsh words are spoken, or when our dignity is called into question. The natural instinct is to retaliate, to defend ourselves, to set the record straight. Yet there is wisdom in silence. A silence that rises not from fear, but from a deep understanding of the value of emotional restraint. In these moments, choosing silence is not about passivity. Rather, it is a deliberate decision to not be governed by impulse or the emotional tide of the moment. It is a conscious act of holding one's ground without lowering oneself to the level of disrespect. Silence, in this context, becomes a profound act of self-control. It is easy to be swept up in the tide of anger and frustration when confronted with disrespect. But true power lies in choosing to remain unaffected, to not let another's words dictate our emotional state. In silence, we not only protect ourselves from the corrosive effects of anger, but also preserve our peace. This peace, in turn, becomes a shield, allowing us to maintain our integrity and dignity even when others seek to strip them away. The difference between reaction and response is crucial here. A reaction is often impulsive, driven by the heat of the moment, while a response is deliberate, measured, and thoughtful. In a world that often values immediate action, silence offers a powerful counterpoint. It invites reflection, providing the space to consider why the disrespect occurred and whether it is truly worth engaging with. By remaining silent, we avoid the trap of reacting in a way that only perpetuates negativity and conflict. In moments of disrespect, silence is also an act of dignity. Our dignity is not defined by how others treat us, but by how we choose to carry ourselves, regardless of external circumstances. When we respond to disrespect with quiet strength, we elevate ourselves above the situation, refusing to be drawn into petty disputes or power struggles. Silence, in this sense, becomes a declaration of personal worth, a refusal to allow the actions of others to diminish our sense of self. Furthermore, the act of staying quiet after disrespect allows us to reflect and maintain our personal integrity. It enables us to rise above the urge for confrontation and embrace a higher standard of behavior. In doing so, we protect not only our peace, but also our relationships. Often, when we meet disrespect with silence, it diffuses the tension, preventing further escalation and fostering an environment for understanding and growth. Ultimately, silence after disrespect is not about ignoring the offense or pretending it didn't happen. It is about recognizing that our response, our choice to remain calm and composed, speaks louder than any words could. In choosing quiet over confrontation, we demonstrate a deep understanding of the power of restraint, the importance of preserving our peace, and the strength that lies in maintaining our dignity. Let us then be those who understand the true strength of silence. Let us resist the urge to engage in the noise of conflict and, instead, choose the quiet path of wisdom and peace. For in that silence, we are not retreating. We are standing firm in our truth. Silence, when chosen deliberately in response to disrespect, is one of the most powerful tools available to us. It might seem counterintuitive at first. How can silence, often associated with weakness or avoidance, be a form of strength? Yet in truth, it requires far more strength to remain silent than to lash out in anger or frustration. This form of silence is not born out of fear or timidity, but out of a deep sense of self-control and awareness. It reflects the ability to master one's emotions, rather than letting them dictate actions. In the face of disrespect, our natural instinct is often to defend ourselves, to react with words that seek to put the offender in their place. This is a reflexive response, driven by the impulse to protect our ego and restore our dignity in the moment. However, this reaction typically only escalates the situation, pulling both parties into a cycle of conflict. The truth is, engaging in verbal combat often leads to a loss of energy and clarity, while silence allows us to maintain composure and calm. The strength of silence lies in its ability to create space between stimulus and reaction. In that space, there is room for reflection, for choice, and for clarity. Rather than reacting instinctively, silence gives us the opportunity to decide how we want to respond, whether we choose to engage with the negativity or rise above it. This conscious decision to remain quiet demonstrates self-restraint, as we refuse to let the actions of others dictate our emotional state. It requires a certain level of inner peace to resist the pull of emotional turmoil and not be swayed by external negativity. Choosing silence also gives us the power to control the narrative. When we react impulsively, we risk saying things that we might regret, adding fuel to the fire of conflict. Silence, on the other hand, disrupts the cycle of escalation. It gives us the upper hand by removing the opportunity for the disrespect to draw us into further negativity. This ability to withhold from responding rashly becomes a shield, one that protects our emotional well-being and preserves our sense of dignity. Moreover, silence in the face of disrespect can also have a disarming effect on the person who has wronged us. Often, people who behave disrespectfully do so seeking a reaction, wanting to provoke us into an argument or confrontation. When we do not engage, we take away their power. The lack of a reaction forces the individual to confront their own behavior, often leaving them with no place to hide from their actions. By choosing silence, we communicate that their disrespect has no power over us, and that we are not willing to engage in an exchange that diminishes us. In the end, silence is not about submission or defeat. It is the active choice to rise above disrespect and maintain a sense of inner strength. This silence speaks louder than words ever could, sending a message of self-respect and emotional maturity. It is through the strength of silence that we find true peace, remaining undisturbed by the external noise that seeks to disrupt our inner harmony. Emotional restraint in the face of provocation is one of the most important practices for maintaining peace and dignity. When we are disrespected, the natural reaction is often to defend ourselves, retaliate, or seek some form of retribution. Our emotions, triggered by the perceived injustice, can drive us to act impulsively, to speak harsh words, or even to engage in a battle that will likely only escalate the situation. However, emotional restraint offers a different path. one that involves controlling our responses and acting with a sense of calm, even when provoked. The ability to restrain one's emotions in the face of disrespect is not a sign of weakness, but of emotional intelligence and maturity. It requires an understanding that emotions, while natural, do not have to control us. Just because we feel anger or frustration doesn't mean we must express them in ways that harm others or ourselves. By practicing emotional restraint, we recognize that our feelings are valid, but we also acknowledge that the expression of those feelings in an uncontrolled manner can cause more harm than good. When we choose emotional restraint, we allow ourselves to take a step back, creating space between the stimulus, the disrespect, and our response. This space provides an opportunity for reflection, for asking ourselves what is really at stake in the moment. Is reacting in anger going to solve the problem? Will a sharp retort lead to reconciliation, or will it deepen the divide? Emotional restraint doesn't mean denying our feelings. It means choosing not to let them dictate our actions. Instead of reacting instinctively, we take a moment to evaluate the situation, to breathe, and to decide the most constructive way to respond. Moreover, emotional restraint helps us to avoid the trap of escalating the conflict. When we respond with anger, our words and actions often provoke further anger in others, leading to a cycle of escalating negativity. Each exchange becomes more heated, more emotional, and more destructive. But when we practice restraint, we break this cycle. By staying calm and composed, we demonstrate that the disrespect will not provoke us into further hostility. This creates the potential for de-escalation, allowing both parties to move away from the conflict rather than becoming entangled in it. Additionally, choosing emotional restraint in the face of provocation helps preserve our dignity. Reacting impulsively to disrespect can lead to saying things we may regret or acting in ways that lower our sense of self-respect. When we maintain emotional control, we prevent ourselves from being drawn into a situation that compromises our values or principles. Restraint allows us to uphold our integrity, showing that we are guided by a higher standard than that of mere reactionary behavior. Finally, emotional restraint enhances our ability to navigate difficult relationships and situations. In life, we encounter many people and circumstances that challenge our peace and patience. Some may deliberately seek to provoke us, while others may unintentionally cause harm. Regardless of the intention behind the disrespect, emotional restraint enables us to remain steady, to choose how we engage, and to avoid being unduly affected by the actions of others. In doing so, we strengthen our emotional resilience, becoming more adept at maintaining our peace and focus, regardless of external challenges. This practice not only protects our own mental and emotional health, but also contributes to the overall harmony of our relationships and environments. The difference between reaction and response is a subtle but essential distinction in how we handle disrespect and provocation. A reaction is impulsive, driven by our emotions in the heat of the moment, while a response is a conscious, thoughtful action that reflects our values and intentions. When we react, we often allow ourselves to be swept up in the emotions triggered by the situation, leading to a knee-jerk response that may not align with our true beliefs or long-term goals. In contrast, a response allows us to pause, reflect, and choose how we want to engage with the situation, offering a much healthier and more effective approach. In moments of disrespect, the impulse to react can be overwhelming. The words or actions that offend us can ignite a strong emotional response, such as anger, hurt, or frustration. These feelings arise instinctively, and our initial desire is often to defend ourselves or retaliate, to strike back in some way to restore our sense of justice. This reaction, while natural, often leads to escalation. When we react from a place of emotion, we risk saying things we don't mean, exacerbating the conflict, and engaging in behaviors that lower our dignity. Choosing to respond, on the other hand, means that we recognize our emotions but choose not to let them dictate our behavior. It requires a moment of pause, a deliberate decision to take control of the situation rather than letting the situation control us. In that pause, we can evaluate the circumstances, reflect on what is truly at stake, and determine the most constructive course of action. A response, therefore, is not a rejection of our feelings. It is a careful consideration of how best to express or channel those feelings in a way that serves our overall well-being and preserves our integrity. By choosing response over reaction, we not only maintain control over our emotions, but we also prevent ourselves from getting entangled in the emotional volatility of others. Disrespect often comes from a place of insecurity, frustration, or aggression in the other person. If we react to their actions in the same emotional manner, we are simply mirroring their negativity and perpetuating the cycle of discord. However, when we choose to respond thoughtfully, we interrupt that cycle and refuse to mirror the hostility directed at us. We maintain a sense of emotional independence, showing that we are not swayed by the whims of others' behavior. This difference between reaction and response also plays a significant role in how we communicate. A reaction is typically defensive, seeking to protect our ego or prove ourselves right. A response, however, is more open and considered. It allows space for communication that is measured, respectful, and purposeful. Rather than attempting to an argument or prove the other person wrong, a response aims to maintain the peace and address the situation in a way that preserves the relationship, or at the very least maintains our personal integrity. Ultimately, the ability to respond rather than react reflects a deeper level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness. It requires us to understand our feelings, acknowledge the impulse to react, and then make a choice that aligns with our values and goals. By practicing the art of response, we can navigate disrespect and provocation with grace and composure, ensuring that our actions are thoughtful and aligned with our highest principles. Maintaining dignity in the face of disrespect is one of the most significant challenges we encounter in life. It is easy to let our pride or emotions take the lead, especially when someone has wronged us or undermined our sense of self-worth. However, rising above this urge and choosing to uphold our dignity instead of reacting in anger is a powerful testament to our character and strength. When we maintain our dignity, we assert that our value is not determined by how others treat us, but by our ability to stand firm in our own beliefs, regardless of external circumstances. Disrespect often challenges our sense of self. It can make us feel small, invisible, or unjustly judged. The natural response in such moments is to fight back, to defend ourselves, and to reclaim our self-respect through confrontation. However, this often leads to a cycle of conflict and can erode the very dignity we are trying to protect. Responding with anger or hurtful words only drags us into the negativity of the situation, reinforcing the idea that our value is somehow tied to how others perceive or treat us. Choosing dignity over reaction, on the other hand, demonstrates a quiet strength. When we refuse to engage in petty disputes or retaliatory behavior, we assert that our worth is not contingent on the opinions of others. Instead of engaging in a back and forth that diminishes us, we rise above the situation, understanding that our integrity and self-respect are more important than winning an argument or proving a point. In this sense, dignity becomes a shield, one that protects us from being drawn into unnecessary conflict and preserves our sense of self, no matter how others choose to behave. Maintaining dignity also involves a level of emotional maturity. It requires us to recognize that disrespect often says more about the person displaying it than about ourselves. Those who resort to disrespect are often struggling with their own frustrations, insecurities, or emotional challenges. When we remain dignified, we are not excusing their behavior, but we are refusing to let it define us or dictate our actions. By choosing not to retaliate or engage in negativity, we communicate that we are not swayed by the emotional turmoil of others. We recognize that their disrespect is their burden to carry, not ours. In addition to protecting our sense of self, maintaining dignity in moments of disrespect fosters long-term peace. While confronting disrespect might offer an immediate sense of satisfaction or vindication, it rarely results in lasting harmony. Confrontations often lead to further tensions and misunderstandings. On the other hand, when we choose to maintain our dignity and respond with calmness or silence, we create the possibility for healing and resolution. Our dignity remains intact, and we open the door for the other person to reflect on their actions without the heat of confrontation clouding the issue. In the end, maintaining dignity is a reminder that our value does not depend on the validation of others. It is about standing firm in our principles and responding to life's challenges with grace, regardless of how we are treated. In choosing dignity over disrespect, we reinforce our own self-worth and embody the quiet strength that comes from knowing who we are, regardless of external circumstances. Silence, when chosen in the face of disrespect, is a tool of immense power, not just for protecting one's peace, but also for maintaining personal integrity. It allows individuals to diffuse tension, avoid unnecessary conflict, and maintain a higher level of emotional and mental control. When confronted with disrespect, the urge to defend oneself or retaliate is often strong. However, reacting in such a manner can quickly escalate the situation, drawing both parties into a cycle of negativity. Silence, in contrast, offers an opportunity to maintain a sense of emotional equilibrium, demonstrating that the disrespect being shown will not sway one from their calm and composed state. Choosing silence over confrontation requires a high degree of emotional intelligence. It acknowledges the existence of the disrespect, but refuses to give it power. By remaining silent, we take control of our emotional responses and prevent the disrespect from dictating our behavior. This ability to disengage from the emotional pull of a disrespectful encounter is a sign of personal strength, as it demonstrates that we are not reliant on external validation to maintain our sense of peace or worth. The less we react to external provocations, the more we strengthen our emotional resilience, as silence allows us to act from a place of inner calm rather than from a reactive state. Moreover, silence serves as a shield that prevents further escalation. When we meet disrespect with silence, we deny the other person the opportunity to provoke us further. Often, those who behave disrespectfully do so with the intention of eliciting a reaction to see if they can elicit anger, frustration, or any form of response. By choosing to remain silent, we deny them the satisfaction of drawing us into their negativity. This refusal to engage prevents the situation from escalating, avoiding unnecessary conflict, and offering a sense of control over the interaction. Silence also allows for a period of reflection. In the heat of the moment, it is easy to say things we might regret. Our words, once spoken, cannot be taken back, and in moments of anger or hurt, they can be particularly harmful. Silence, however, grants us the opportunity to pause, think, and reflect on the best course of action. It provides space to assess the situation objectively and decide whether it is worth responding to at all, or if it is better to let the moment pass without engaging. By taking this time, we avoid rash decisions and ensure that any response we give, if we choose to respond, is measured and thoughtful. Furthermore, silence in the face of disrespect can often serve as a powerful statement. When we choose to remain quiet, we are sending a message that we refuse to be pulled into negativity or conflict. The silence itself speaks volumes about our character and values. It communicates that we do not need to stoop to the level of disrespect in order to protect our dignity. In this way, silence becomes not just a defensive strategy, but an affirmation of our personal integrity. In essence, silence is a powerful tool for maintaining inner peace and personal integrity in the face of disrespect. It allows us to maintain control over our emotional state, to prevent the escalation of conflict, and to reflect thoughtfully on the situation. Most importantly, it sends a strong message of self-respect, demonstrating that we are not willing to compromise our peace or dignity for the sake of confrontation. The power of choosing silence as a response to disrespect often lies in its ability to change the dynamic of an interaction without engaging in further conflict. While it may seem passive, silence is an active and intentional choice to not participate in the negative energy being directed at us. It is not a retreat or submission. Rather, it is a conscious decision to maintain control over our emotional and mental states and to preserve our dignity in the face of disrespect. One of the most profound effects of silence in such moments is that it disrupts the expectations of the person displaying the disrespect. Often, those who are disrespectful do so with the intention of provoking a reaction. They want to see us lose our composure, respond in anger, or defend ourselves in a way that validates their actions. When we choose silence, we deny them this reaction. This lack of engagement can make the person feel isolated, as their attempt to provoke has failed. In essence, silence neutralizes the power of the disrespect, demonstrating that we are not willing to be drawn into their emotional turmoil. Additionally, silence shifts the focus away from the conflict and towards the internal strength required to maintain composure. It sends a message to both the individual who has disrespected us and to ourselves that we are secure in our own sense of worth, independent of external validation. By remaining silent, we are not allowing the disrespect to dictate our emotional response. We show that our peace of mind is not contingent upon how others treat us. This practice of silence becomes a tool for reinforcing personal boundaries and reminding both ourselves and others of our emotional independence.